I think that I consciously or unconsciously felt stuck, like I
Hmm.
couldn't change these thought patterns and behaviors, that this is just the way it was going to be. And I don't think I at all appreciated how plastic, these
Hmm.
things can be.
Pure transformation.
Hi, this is Matt, and welcome to episode 2 of Pure Transformation. In this episode, we're working with Andrew Barber, who is a professional poker player and is having some trouble finishing his PhD. Now, we're going to cover a lot of modalities in this particular episode. We go over relaxed inquiry, we go over Ho'oponopono, we go over Byron Katie's The Work, we go over the Sedona method, we go over state crafting and state shaping right at the end here, which is pretty cool. And we're also going to go over a number of other integration modalities, such as memory collection. So take a look at this episode. If you are working on your PhD and you're having trouble with it, you might get a lot out of this. And enjoy.
An important point in my life and career development as far as finishing my dissertation for my PhD.
Finishing dissertation. Okay, and what's been going on with that?
I would say, a lot hasn't been going on. There's a lot of resistance to completing that I'm trying to unpack and understand. I've often thought that, maybe the biggest motivation to push grad students out the door and graduate is the fact that almost no one can live on a graduate student salary. And the problem I have is that I've been successful outside of academia, and I think that's made me somewhat complacent or content to just kind of enjoy what it is to be a PhD student, to occasionally teach, to explore topics, converse with other, academics and intellectuals, and just kind of think. And I think that works, except for the fact that, I'm not operating in a vacuum. I'm subject to constraints. I'm subject to, the whims of my department on whether or not they want to allow me to continue to be here. And that's not, you're not given infinite time to finish your PhD.
Yeah.
My partner, my fiance of, we've been together for 3 years, and, she has jokingly said that she would break up with me if I didn't finish my PhD. I think she knew I needed some kind of a nudge, and that was the best nudge she could provide. So yeah, so there's for various reasons I do feel the need to complete it, but it's just gotten impossibly hard, and I've tried a variety of commitment devices to just get the ball rolling, and those have been, mostly unsuccessful.
Yeah. Yeah. And so oftentimes when we try these external things to maybe coerce ourselves into doing things, right? It can actually, if we have some resistance, it can make that resistance worse, right? We're sort of pushing against this resistance and the resistance pushes back. So one way to think about this or look at this, and I don't think this is a complete frame, but it is a useful frame, is that the actions we're doing are coherent, are reasoned and and logical within the framework of within some subconscious framework that we might not be aware of, right?
Right.
And so one way to look at resistance is that the resistance is for something, for some reason. It's doing something for you. And so we want to look at that and integrate that into our wisdom. And then once we're sort of integrating that in, we can figure out how do we want to respond. Maybe it's, right, just to throw out a few totally random examples, and I don't need you to, you probably feel resistance to all of these examples, but like it's just an example. So maybe the solution is that, well, it doesn't make sense for me to get a PhD anymore, so I'm going to
I'm going to stop trying to do this, right? Maybe the solution is, well, I'm going to do my PhD, but I was trying too hard, and I'm going to try less hard, and I just want to get it over with. Maybe it's the opposite, right? Maybe I wasn't trying hard enough, and it really matters to me that this is crafted and artistic and get something across. So the resistance could be trying to tell you all of these things. And so all we're going to do in order to do that is access this feeling of resistance and see what comes up and begin to dig into that. Make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Great. So I want you to, there's a few ways we can go about this. So perhaps maybe the way to strongest get into the resistance is to take a moment here and begin doing what you need to do to work on your PhD, right? So I don't know if you need to pull up some program on your computer or what you need to do right now to begin actually working on it. And what I want you to do is just notice your experience as you begin to start this, right? So you're halfway just focused on doing it and starting it, and halfway focused on your experience of it. And as you begin to do that, just keep going there, and let me know when this resistance begins to come up and get strong for you.
So a while ago, I put everything that I needed for my research, all of the files and data and literature review on an external hard drive. And I kind of associate it with, my dissertation. And I have to, plug it into my laptop every time I want to use the files. And my first feeling as I'm doing this is, I've taken like several hiatuses, research hiatuses, and every time I get back to it, it's kind of like I'm starting over, that I have to like reacquaint myself. It feels unfamiliar. I'm not sure where to start. I start to feel a little bit of like pain, that it's going to be hard. It's going to be a struggle.
Okay. So let's focus on that pain. Are you feeling that right now? That sense of pain? Are you in touch with that?
I'm not feeling like deeply or viscerally, but like I know that I'm starting to get to that point, because I literally just like plugged in the hard drive and was like opening it up. But I know that when I get a little bit further along in terms of like opening the data and the software that I use, I'll be wondering, okay, all right, I need to get my code out. I need to figure out where I want to start. Do I need to debug something? Do I need to comment my code?
Yeah. So notice that, right? You're starting to open files. You're like, I've got to do this. I've got to do that. I don't know where to start. What do I do now? And I want you to notice, right, other than what's salient for you here as you hone in on that sense of resistance, right? That sense of, oh my God, what do I do now? There's this, there's that. You might notice physical sensations coming up if you pay attention to your body. You might notice memories coming up. You might notice a voice in your head. What's salient for you as you sort of allow yourself, rather than fighting against resistance, you sort of welcome the resistance? What's salient for you?
It's not like a very descriptive feeling, but like overwhelm.
Overwhelm, right?
Yeah. Maybe like I don't know, maybe like my palms are a little bit sweaty, like kind of clammy, kind of uncertainty as far as, that's again not like a very specific feeling.
Okay. So you're feeling this overwhelm, your palms are sweaty, feeling a sense of uncertainty. As you notice this overwhelm and you pay attention to your body, if you were to place this overwhelm in a place in your body, right, where would you point to this sense of overwhelm in your body?
I think maybe, it's funny, I had the same struggle with like this kind of stuff in CFAR stuff with like felt senses. Like I felt like I had a lot of difficulty locating sensations, but maybe I would say like kind of the pit of my stomach.
Okay. So as you feel this overwhelm and uncertainty in the pit of your stomach, what I want you to do is just breathe into it. And what I mean by breathing into it, okay, is that you can breathe into more sort of your mouth. You can breathe into your throat. You breathe into your chest. You breathe into your stomach. And I want you to breathe and try and sort of pinpoint your breath to where that sense of uncertainty and overwhelm is. And imagine that you're sort of filling up that sense of uncertainty and then letting it go, and filling it up and letting it go. And allow yourself just a minute or two here to breathe into it. And really, like I said, just welcome it. Don't try to push it away. Don't try and get away from it. Just breathe into it and welcome it. And without coming out of that, I want you to stay there where you are in terms of your focus and awareness. Just resting your attention and awareness on that sensation. And while you're there, I want to check in with you because I know you have trouble accessing this. Does it feel like you are noticing something about how you're feeling? Does it feel like you are in touch with something? Or does it more feel like you're just humoring me and there's not really anything going on here?
I'm calming myself. I think like I definitely appreciate like the value of just taking a moment to breathe deeply, and like that, how that is kind of calming and settling.
Yeah. So my question is, do you feel like you are getting in touch with the sense of overwhelm, that you are getting more aware of it, or no? And either answer is fine.
No, I think if anything, maybe it's like fading slightly.
Got it. Okay. So from this place, once again, imagining that you're going back, you're now opening the files, you're feeling that sense of where do I start? How do I start? Oh my God, I've got to restart. Once again, getting in touch with that sense of overwhelm. Another way we can access this, if accessing through the body is harder for you, is to get in touch with that little voice in your head that is saying these things. Oh my God, where do I start? How do I start? Do you have a voice in your head that is saying these things to you?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's lots of internal dialogue regarding this subject.
Okay. So getting in touch now with that internal dialogue, really opening your ears. And again, instead of sort of pushing this voice away, allowing it, welcoming it, listening to it, like you might listen to a very wise person or somebody you really care about what they have to say. And as you're listening to it, I almost want you to turn the volume up on it, just like you would turn the volume up on the radio. So that voice is getting louder, drowning out maybe some other voices in your head, maybe something that says, oh, but no, we've got to work anyway. And just listening to that voice of overwhelm and uncertainty. Do you hear it saying things to you now?
I think that I'm having to recall like things that I've said in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done a really good job of like putting a big distance between me and this project over the last months. So I would be kind of playing recordings now.
Okay.
But so it's like a lot of negative self-talk. It's this project will never get finished. It's not any good. You're so poorly organized.
Yeah. So as that comes up, right? What I want you to do is allow yourself to say those out loud as the voice is talking. Say those out loud, hear yourself say it, and let it feed back in to this voice, right? I want you to almost allow yourself to work yourself up into a frenzy and allow this voice to take over. Now, if that gets too much, you can always back off and we can always get out of that. But I want you to allow yourself, take these recordings, say them out loud, feel the impact, and let that feed back into this voice and what it's saying to you. if you're comfortable doing so. If you're not comfortable saying it out loud, you can do the same thing, but in your head.
No, I don't mind. No one cares about this topic. It's too
Wait.
niche.
So you're saying no one cares about this topic. You're not really meaning it as you say it, right? What would it be like to really mean that? No one cares about this topic, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
This project is stupid. This is
Mm.
a stupid project. I chose poorly. It was doomed to failure from the start. It's not going anywhere. It's a colossal waste of time to sink more time into it.
Hear that. Feel that impact. Keep going.
Yeah, what's the point of working on it? If it's not going to go anywhere, it's not going to be of any use to anyone. You're going to do terribly on the job market with this research.
Hook your voice box directly up to that voice and just let things flow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to finish this because I don't finish anything. I let things, I don't complete things all the time.
Yeah.
Why would this be any different?
Wow. All right. So from this place now, I imagine that this voice is now starting to sort of speak up instead of feeling like you're trying to recall. Does that feel true?
Yeah.
Great. So as this voice talks to you, I just want you to send it a question, and just like you were doing, let it answer, right? Don't feel the need to think of an answer. Just see what the voice says, right? You can wait until the voice says something, like you were before. You're just sort of waiting, and then, oh, here's another thing. And the question is, to the voice, what do you want for Andrew? What does the voice want for Andrew?
I think that I want him to have as little pain as possible.
Okay, so this voice wants something that sounds fairly positive, wanting you to have as little pain as possible, right? Now, you might not agree with all of the actions this voice has recommended and the way that this voice talks to you, and it still has a positive intention, right? You can imagine a child or a friend who maybe you didn't agree with their actions, but you know they really cared about you. You can have gratitude for that. And I wonder if you could talk to this voice for a second and just say, like you would talk to a friend or a child that maybe you know that they care about you and you want to express gratitude for the fact that they care. And take a moment to just say what you would say to gratitude for wanting you to avoid pain.
I appreciate that you don't want me to feel pain.
Taking a moment there. Once again, connecting with this voice, making sure that the voice is still there, still okay, welcoming it. And we're going to ask another question, which is, why is it important to have as little pain as possible? What do you want through that? Or what do you want to gain through helping Andrew avoid pain? Again, not feeling the need to try to answer, just waiting and waiting until the voice responds.
This one's not coming as quickly. It makes me wonder if I was maybe wrong on the first attempt. Like, I wonder if instead of pain, or maybe it wasn't specific, but and I'm trying to feel it out. I'm not sure if it was to avoid pain or to avoid disappointment.
Yeah.
I mean, I think pain is like the short-term feeling, but maybe disappointment is like the longer term.
Yeah. So wanting Andrew to avoid pain, and that's important because that pain in the long term will lead to disappointment. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Once again, just noticing that this part of you, this overwhelm, this uncertainty, wants something positive for you. It wants you to avoid disappointment. And again, feeling gratitude, thankfulness for this positive intention. Why is it important for Andrew not to be disappointed?
I mean, I want him to be happy.
Connecting with that. This part just wants you to be happy. And imagine you had that happiness for Andrew as deeply and completely and fully as you wanted or needed now and into the future. Andrew had that happiness fully, deeply, completely. And asking, is there anything deeper, more important, more fundamental that you want for Andrew through having that, now having that? Is there anything deeper you want for Andrew?
I mean, I think that's the ultimate goal. I think everything is upstream of that,
Okay.
downstream of that.
Yeah. Great. Just checking in, how are you in terms of feeling connected to this voice? Do you feel like you have a sense of it? Do you feel like you have a grasp on it?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think that like
Right.
I bury it. I think I just bury this stuff, these feelings, this voice.
Yeah. And in this moment you feel it's surfaced. You have access
like
to
I'm
it now. Great.
very much so.
Great. So this part of you, and part is it's just a frame on this, right? It's just a way to think about these different feelings that are different parts of us. It has this sense of overwhelm and uncertainty for you. And that overwhelm and uncertainty wants you to have as little pain as possible. And through avoiding that pain, you can avoid that longer term sense of disappointment. And that can allow Andrew to be happy. Now, sometimes this part, I'm sure, has helped you and done really powerful, positive things that you really appreciate. Maybe other times you feel resentment for how you've interacted with that part or how that part has interacted with you. So I want to take some time to acknowledge all parts of this part of you and your relationship with it. And so we're going to go through a Hawaiian practice called Ho'oponopono, which allows us to heal relationships with others, or in this case, with ourselves. So the first part of Ho'oponopono is thankfulness and gratitude. What are the things that you appreciate about this person or part of yourself? And can you express those now, either in your head, if that feels better, or out loud, if that feels better to you?
I mean, I appreciate that I'm protecting myself.
Yeah.
Because if I didn't, no one else would. So that's, I mean, I can understand that.
Great. So now, the next step here is expressing love to this part. And I like to split, whenever I'm expressing love, I like to acknowledge that that I have both conditional love to give, meaning I can see the great parts of someone and love that. And I have unconditional love to give, meaning everyone and everything deserves love, despite who they are and what they are. I like to express both of those parts of love when I'm expressing love to someone or something. So if you can express love to this part of you, both conditionally and unconditionally, feel free to do that now. Now, if you don't feel comfortable with one of those two types of love, either the conditional or the unconditional, express love in whatever way feels congruent to you. And next step of Ho'oponopono is around forgiveness. We have gratitude sometimes for things that we agree with, things that feel wise to us. We might have resentment as well for other people or other things. Times that we feel someone made a bad decision or didn't talk to us in a skillful way or hurt our feelings. And forgiveness is about acknowledging that there were negative effects and not feeling the need to grasp and hold on and saying, it's okay, we can move on from here. We don't need to carry this grudge into the future. So if you can take a moment to forgive this voice, this part of you, for any things that you may feel resentment around. And the final part of this, Ho'opono, is sort of the flip side of forgiveness. Sometimes we are the ones who are unskillful in interacting with parts of ourselves or with somebody else. We are the ones who hurt their feelings or ignored their needs. And I'm sure there are times of you when you've ignored this need of yourself, you've ignored this voice. You maybe haven't treated it, even if you didn't agree with it. Maybe there was a nicer way you could have talked to it or agreed with it or connected with it. So now apologizing and feeling sorry and letting that known to this voice. Checking in now with the voice. Have you noticed any shifts in how you're relating to this voice in your head? Have you noticed any changes, small or large, or not at all? If that's the case.
Yeah, I think big changes in compassion for this self-protective side of myself.
Yeah.
It meant well. I misunderstood it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So just taking a second to integrate that, right? Letting it talk to you like it normally would, but noticing if there's a different quality to that, or if you're relating to those words differently now. And just sit with that for as long as you'd like to feel like, okay, I've integrated this new sense, this new relationship. And let me know when you're done.
I mean, I anticipate it's a process.
Yeah.
But I think that there's a level of appreciation there that wasn't there before.
Great. So we're going to set this aside for a moment, not because there's anything wrong with this voice, but simply because we want to work with another part of you. So you can almost imagine setting this voice off to the side, putting it aside with the promise and the meant promise that you will welcome it back later and connect back with it later at the appropriate and wise time. And I want you to think back now to trying to work on your PhD, trying to write it, trying to work on it. And there may be another voice or feeling or sense that is pushing you to act, that is pushing you to take action, that is pushing you to work. And just take a moment to get in touch with that, to connect with that in whatever way makes sense to you. Now, if you need to, you can do the exercise we did earlier, where you can voice out loud the thoughts, you can hear them, you can get into that loop until this voice is really loud and consistent in you.
Yeah, I think this one comes a little more easily.
Great. does that voice want for Andrew? Is it a voice or is it a feeling? How are you connecting with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a voice again. It's like it's thinking back to the things that I have said to myself, or the reasoning I've used with myself before. You know, it's like the pros in a pros cons list.
Yeah. So right now it sounds like you're still sort of trying to remember it. So again, welcoming that voice, opening it. If you feel comfortable, perhaps voicing some of these memories, these pros out loud and really meaning them.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I really want to complete this PhD. It opens a lot of doors.
You're still sounding like you're listing things like you were last time, rather than really connecting with those reasons and meaning what you're saying.
Okay. I want to move on to other things.
Yeah.
I want to do some good in the world. I want freedom.
Okay. I want to move on to other things. I want to do some good in the world. I want freedom. Yeah. Connecting with that, feeling that. There's part of you here that wants you to avoid disappointment so that you can be happy. There's part of you here that wants you to do some good in the world, move on, wants freedom. And right now we're connected to this part of you that wants freedom. And what's important about that freedom? Why does it matter that Andrew get that freedom? Again, just sort of holding this and waiting for an answer from the voice rather than trying to think about an answer.
Choices, opportunities.
Yeah. And being able to have those choices and seize those opportunities, why is that important? Why does that matter?
Greater happiness.
So you have this one part of you that wants more happiness and this other part of you that wants more happiness. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Okay. Again, hearing this voice, connecting with this voice. I'm going to go through that same Ho'oponopono process. And you can take as long or as short as you need to complete this. If some of these already feel rather integrated, that's okay. You can take less for that step. If some of these feel less integrated, that's okay. You can take longer. So, first of all, feeling thankfulness and gratitude for this part that wants you to do some good in the world, wants freedom. Through that freedom, having choice and opportunities that can lead to greater happiness. And expressing that thankfulness and gratitude for this part of you, for this piece of you. Feeling love, perhaps of both the conditional and unconditional kind, and expressing that to this part of you. Now, noticing times that you may feel a little bit resentment, or some parts that you may feel a little bit resentment or frustrated. And if you want, you can bring in some of the objections from that other part we set aside. If that part has any resentments, you can bring that into this process and give forgiveness. And finally, noticing times when you may not have been kind or wise with this part, times you've ignored it or not talked to it nicely or not interacted with it in the wisest way, and apologizing. And from this place, just listening to this voice, connecting to it, and noticing if you feel any different or not. Noticing if you're relating to it differently and allowing that to integrate if, in fact, there is a difference.
I think I was better connected to this voice than the other because I think this I understood, maybe not completely, but more so.
Yeah. So if I'm understanding correctly, maybe there wasn't so as much of a shift here because you were already feeling fairly connected.
Yeah, I think that it was maybe easier to understand, the voice that's pushing for progress.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So what I want to do is we're just going to do some exploration now of this part of you and the coherent reasons it has. And we're going to do this with a sense of irreverent curiosity. What do I mean by irreverent curiosity? I mean, we're genuinely wanting to explore this belief and curious about which parts of it are true and false and which parts of it are incomplete and complete. And we're not taking that process too seriously. We're having fun with it. We're enjoying it. We're like, yeah, really? I don't know. That's fun, right? So as you're here with this voice and you're talking to it, one thing I'd be curious about is how does it want to motivate you? What does it think is the proper way to get you to do the things, to do some good in the world, to get that freedom, to get choice and opportunities to lead to greater happiness? What does it think is the proper way to move you along and get that to happen? And again, not thinking, just holding that, like, how do you motivate Andrew? And seeing what comes up.
So I've got some stuff.
Okay.
Do you want me to just voice it, or?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think that I worry sometimes that I'm not intrinsically motivated, that I need extrinsic motivation. And I think that there's like shame there because growing up, I never had to look for external motivators. And now it just seems like my life is a bunch of like trying to create external motivation systems.
And when you say there's shame there, what does it mean about you to motivate yourself externally? What does that say about you? And again, just holding that and seeing what comes up from this voice.
I mean, I suppose, were it not for that additional motivation that's kind of shoved in there, that I'm not driven enough, or I don't want to do good or be good for just the sake of doing and being good.
So I'm not driven, I don't want to do good for the sake of being good. And what does that mean about you? If you don't want to be good for the sake of being good, what does that say about you? What does that mean about you? Crystallize that feeling into, if you had to crystallize that feeling into a sentence saying, I am or I'm not, what would it mean about you?
It feels like this isn't complete, but
Okay.
that I'm lazy.
Lazy. Okay. So if I motivate myself externally, then I'm lazy. Does that feel true to you?
That is true. I'm just wondering if that's capturing all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. How about we explore that part and then we see what else comes up? And
yeah. I mean, I was going to add
Go ahead.
weak. Like I'm weak.
Lazy and weak. Yeah. Okay. So if I use external motivators, then I'm lazy and weak. Does that feel true?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's look at that with irreverent curiosity. We're not trying to get a yes or a no, or this is true or this is not true. We're just going to explore this. Just going to, with curiosity, explore this belief. So just hold this question with that sense of irreverent curiosity, with that sense of, I'm just curious here. Is it true that if you use external motivators, then you're lazy and weak? Just hold that question for a little bit. See what comes up, what pops up around that.
I mean, I feel like I quickly heard a voice that was like defending me, saying, no, that's smart. That's clever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Now, with irreverent curiosity, let's explore this question. Can you be absolutely sure that it's true that if you use external motivation, then you're lazy and weak? Can you be absolutely sure that's true? Just explore that with irreverent curiosity, not trying to get any answer. Just explore it with curiosity.
Yeah, I have to admit that this one isn't so much of a struggle for me, because I think I do understand at a very deep level that these things are so far from being absolutely true.
So the answer is no, it sounds like. He can't be absolutely true.
No.
True. Yeah.
No,
Okay.
Cannot be.
Again, with curiosity, we're going to explore this question. When you believe that having external motivation means you're lazy and weak, how do you react? How do you behave? Who do you become? And what are the consequences? So when you look at that, how does that show up for you, having that belief? What does it mean for you, having that belief? What are the consequences of that? Just hold that with curiosity and see what comes up for you.
So what are the consequences of holding that belief that I know to be either not 100% true or explicitly false?
What are the consequences of holding the belief that having external motivation systems means you're lazy and weak?
Okay.
There are probably both positive and negative consequences, so make sure to explore both of those with curiosity. What's coming up for you?
Just, I think the tension between, is it a good thing or bad thing? Are the consequences positive or negative? I think I'm realizing that it almost is like a nuclear arms race, where like the defenses are being built up stronger and stronger on either side. That I have this belief, that I'm weak or lazy. So then I come up with these commitment devices, and then or external motivators, and then the external motivators, as they become larger, make me double down on my belief that I'm weak and lazy. And then if I have that belief that I'm weak and lazy, then I have to have more reliance upon the.
Yeah. So the question is, do those external motivators mean that you're weak and lazy, right? That's what we're exploring. What would it be to not think those external motivators mean that you're weak and lazy? How would that change how you relate to this?
I mean, I guess the obvious thing is that there wouldn't be shame. And I could just see them as a useful tool. And potentially a second order effect is potentially less reliance on them.
What would be the negatives if you no longer believed that external motivators mean you're lazy and weak? And again, I don't want you to think too much, just sort of hold that question, see what arises for you.
The negative of that. I mean, I suppose in a world where it was 100% true that I was lazy, weak, and that these were required, and that these were required because of that, the B follows A, then I guess the negative would be like I just wouldn't have like a true model of myself or the world.
Yeah. But I don't even know. I mean, what would that mean to be in a world where you're lazy and weak? Those are like weird generalizations of like.
Yeah. No,
You know,
I'm trying to. I'm trying to fully embrace this, but I don't really believe it
Okay.
to be true.
So let me ask you, and again, just hold this with curiosity. I'm not looking for a yes or a no here. Can you let this belief go that using external motivators means you're lazy and weak? With irreverent curiosity, just hold that question and see what comes up for you.
Yeah, I feel like in the spirit of this exercise, I should try to like voice some of these a little bit more. And so, sorry, can you repeat the question? I had it.
Can
Like,
you
I
let
had a
this
good train of
belief
thought.
go?
Yes. Okay.
That,
So yeah. So if I guess, can I let this belief go? I don't know. It's a really like well-worn groove, like a pattern that we've established. How can we break that linkage between the two?
So it sounds like a maybe, like a I want to, but I'm not sure how, or I'm not sure if I can. Is that?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay.
That like I don't want to hold the naive belief that it can be easily shed.
Yeah. Okay. The next question: will you let this belief go? Again, just with irreverent curiosity.
Will is stronger than can, and if I maybe about can, then I think I have to be by definition maybe about will.
Not necessarily. It's not always logical how we respond to these different questions. So be open to whatever comes up. But if you're like, yes, I'm even less sure about the will, then that's fine too.
Yeah, I mean, I want to, and I think I'm understanding the false belief a little bit more, and that it's disempowering, that it creates this negative feedback loop.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm like checking in, and I don't think I actually think I already don't hold the belief as strongly.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm reasoning through it, and I think like just recognizing that and some some other insights earlier, just like recognizing things I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah. So integrate those, allow those, and let me know when you're ready for the next question. So the next question, you said, can I let it go? Maybe will I let it go? I've started to let it go already. The next question is, when will you let this belief go? Just with irreverent curiosity, asking. Sometimes the answer is now, sometimes the answer is never, sometimes the answer is, oh, after this happens.
Is there any reason why we can't let it go immediately? Not really. There's no like commitments to this. There's really no downside to letting it go.
So when will you let this belief go?
I suppose now.
Okay. So allow that process to happen, that letting go process.
I think that I'm nervous that like it shouldn't be that easy. And again, like having some like healthy skepticism that, if bad thoughts were that easy to shed, then no one would have them.
Yeah. So there's a belief here that change has to be difficult, or the world will look quite different, right? So I want to step out a second here from this internal work we're doing, and just address that from a science point of view. There's a process that that scientists have discovered in the last 30 years or so called memory reconsolidation. Have you heard of this?
No.
No. So the idea, they used to think, and this was sort of the basis of cognitive behavioral therapy, that you had your short-term memory, and then as soon as something was in your long-term memory, it basically was in your brain forever, unless you like got brain damage, right? And so they believed that the only way to overcome negative beliefs was to have some other belief and reinforce it enough that it fired instead of the old belief, right? So this is what CBT is based on. Every time you have a negative belief, you would sort of question that, and then you would counter it with a positive thought. And then if you did that enough, you would have the positive thought instead of the negative one. But in the past 30 years or so, they discovered this thing called memory reconsolidation, which means that if you can activate an old, what's called an emotional schema or an emotional memory, that is an emotional knowing that X is bad or Y is bad, and it's usually tied to these sorts of beliefs, right? Like that sort of thing. If you can activate it, and while it's activated, you can question it. And then while it's questioned, while questioning it, you can learn and create a new belief that it can actually, instead of this process of having to be permanent, you can actually change the old emotional schema, the old belief. And this process makes sense evolutionarily, right? It makes sense to have a way to change old beliefs, but it makes sense for that process to be quite hard to access. Because emotional memories are there for a reason, right? If a tiger came after you in a field, you want to remember not to go to that field, but you also want to be able to go to that field if the tiger moves away or something. So the process we just went through of really accessing that belief by getting deep into it and understanding it, and then while accessing it, questioning it, and then creating this new belief, right, is that memory reconsolidation process. And the reason that people don't just stumble upon this randomly is that people, it's very hard to stay inside a belief while questioning it. And what we've been doing for the past hour and 20 minutes is to get to that point where we can do that. So I don't expect that to totally change your mind right away, but be open to the fact that change can happen quickly and permanently through memory reconsolidation.
Okay.
So I want to now step back. I want to put aside, again, to the side, like we did the other part of you, this part of you that wants you to do some good in the world, wants freedom, wants choices and opportunities, and through that, greater happiness. The part of you that maybe used to believe that you're not intrinsically motivated and that external motivators means you're lazy and weak. And just set that aside for a moment, again, with the promise that we will come back to it later. And I want you to allow yourself to re-access that part of you that has overwhelm and uncertainty, that wants him to have as little pain and disappointment as possible, and through that, allow him to be happy. And you might find it's a little different than it was before after going through the process that we went through earlier and the process we just did. But I want you to, again, to allow yourself to start voicing some of the thoughts from that voice, to really get back in touch with this voice and welcome it and talk with it.
Yeah, I think it's hard to engage that now having a different perspective.
Okay. So let's go a different way then.
I mean, I'm happy to try, but
yeah. So another way to do it, because we don't want to access something that's no longer there. We can accidentally recreate when you're in this. It's called a labile state when you've just done a memory reconsolidation, and during that time you have a chance to learn a new pattern. Now, if we accidentally relearn the old pattern in that time, that's something we don't want to do. So rather than trying to pull up something that you're not quite sure is the same, instead, let's do the exercise we did at the beginning. and continue now to plug in your drive and go back to working on your PhD, and just notice if there's any sorts of resistance or anything coming up to do that. Now, if not, if you're totally fine, what we can do is go right on to integrating this new perspective. But if there is still some resistance, we can go into working with that.
Yeah, I will tell you that I feel like calmer and at peace. And I don't know, like an emotion that I'm feeling. I don't know. I don't think it's really an emotion, but something I'm feeling now that I wasn't feeling prior is like genuine curiosity about what I'm doing, as opposed to dread.
Yeah.
And that's nice. Like that's something that's the feeling you kind of always want to have when you're entering a project.
Keep going. I want to check here. It's good to be sure here. It's very easy when we've made a change to not notice there's another layer of resistance or another layer of thing underneath. Just keep going and see how that goes, right? As you begin to start looking at, okay, where do I start? How do I start?
Yeah, like for example, so I guess like talking through this process is useful. So like I said, I have this external hard drive. It's got all my files on it. I plug it in, and then I load up this software called Stata, which is what economists use, and I'm like loading my data file. And I think even just like getting to this point, I even like have joked that like this should be, one of my weekly goals is literally just to open the data. Because I was literally struggling at that point. I was struggling, I would make excuses. I'd become so good at making excuses for why I can't do this now. I'm not in the right headspace, or I don't feel like doing it, and I want to write instead, or I want to read, or I'm always trying to do more like background reading. Like, I don't think I know the topic well enough. I need to better understand what I'm dealing with before I actually do some of the data work.
Yeah. So as you're here now, are you feeling that now?
No. I think that like and I appreciate your skepticism as well. That I think that I am like curious, that I have like this. It's funny. I'm looking at like a whiteboard, and I feel like I have like a clean slate that I'm working from.
Yeah. Great.
That I've like kind of unloaded some of this crap, this emotional baggage.
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do now, this is, like I said, we've got this 30-minute to 3-hour reconsolidation window. And this is a really cool time period because you have an opportunity during this window to shape your experience of work now and for every time you access the schema. Anytime when you used to feel that sense of dread, we have an opportunity now to feel a new thing and shape what that feeling is. So one of the things that can be really, really powerful here is to notice what would be the optimal feelings, stance, work, way to move forward here. So I want you to just get in touch now with the sense of genuine curiosity and blank slateness, the feelings, the images, the thoughts. And you can almost step out of yourself. Imagine there's sort of a hologram in front of you of yourself with this feeling of curiosity and blank slateness. And just look at that. And look at the task in front of you of writing the PhD. And, any other time you might want this curiosity and blank slateness, other places. And as you look at this hologram, you see the energies coming off of it and the sounds. You can even sort of maybe put your hand out and feel that energy of curiosity moving forward. You can ask yourself, is there anything I could add to this Andrew, this version of myself, that would be even more powerful? Could I add love or excitement or focus? Is there anything else I can add here that would be, I think, could be even more powerful? And as you do that, is anything coming up for you?
Like what are useful qualities for the state? Is that what you're asking roughly? Okay. Yeah. Focus, non-distraction.
So
Distraction
let's
has
start
been
with focus.
crippling for me.
Let's take things one at a time.
Sure.
So if you think of a time when you were really focused, can you pull up a time now and sort of step into a memory of a time you were really focused in the way that would be useful for this state?
I mean, is this discussion like an okay example? Because I was just observing that I can't believe that 90 minutes has passed.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of the things that's a useful indicator of whether time is dragging is like how often you check the clock. And like I literally had no concept of time for a while.
Yeah. So
and that's like so nice of a flow, like when you're in a flow state, sorry to interrupt, but like the flow state is like that time is just passing quickly.
Yeah. So I want you to take now the sense of focus you have right now, and I want you to notice what that's like and add that to the hologram now in front of you, to that version of Andrew that has that calm blank slateness, and adding this sense of focus. Now, noticing how the hologram may change color or may change a bit as you add this sense of focus to it. And let me know when that process feels as complete as you can get it. Great. So just to integrate that for a second, I want you to step back into the hologram and feel what it's like to have that sense of curiosity with that sense of focus integrated. And when you felt that, you can go ahead and step out and look at the hologram again. Looking at this hologram, is there anything else that you can add here that would make this experience even more powerful, even more enjoyable, and even more functional?
I'm trying to compile my dream list of like qualities.
Yeah.
I guess like sharpness. I mean, I don't know to what degree I can control this, but like obviously being sharp is very useful.
Yeah.
When you're trying to work.
Okay.
Present, but I guess that's kind of non-distracted.
Yeah. So this sort of present sharpness, or the sharp presentness. Yeah. So can you think of a memory now where you had that sharp presentness, where that present sharpness?
It feels like it's fleeting. I'm trying to think of instances where I felt it.
That's okay.
Like
so
I've been aware of it.
It doesn't have to be a memory that's 10 minutes long. It could be a memory that's 30 seconds long, right?
Okay.
Yeah. Because as long as you can access that state, we can then extend that. Stepping into that memory, feeling that moment, noticing how your body is, how your thoughts are, noticing if your posture is any different. Stepping into that moment of present sharpness. And once you feel that energy, adding this to the hologram. Once again, stepping back into the hologram, and I want you to feel how all of these now are interacting. This present sharpness, this focus, this curiosity and blank slateness. And take a moment to really feel how that feels, to feel all of those together now. And I'm going to allow you to add one more thing to this. I do want to do some other integration stuff to make sure this is integrated in other areas of your life. But feel that now. Feels good, huh?
Yeah, I don't even know if there's room for much more.
Yeah. It's amazing how good we can feel. I mean,
I was gonna say it feels like I'm building a superhero. Like, I want to build a superhero that tackles academic work. How would I assemble such a superhero?
Exactly. So go ahead, step out, notice the hologram again, and notice if there's anything else we want to add here. And I want to think about if there's something here, right? If you're imagining this not just in a moment, but imagine feeling this for an hour or 6 hours or 7 hours or days. And as you imagine feeling this for a long time, is there something that's missing? Whether it be self-care or compassion, or something totally different when you imagine this over a long period of time. Is there anything here that you want to add to make this complete?
Like within this hologram?
Within this hologram, yeah. Any sense or thing that you need in order to make this sustainable over a long period of time?
I mean, it's just so far removed from anything I've known for a long time
Yeah.
that it's like asking someone, "Hey, what do you think the potential problems would be if someone gave you $1 billion?"
Yeah.
I don't think it's easy. I don't think it's easy to come up with like problems with that. You just think about all the benefits.
Here's one way to do it. Okay. So you can imagine in your mind, I'm having this for an hour. Okay. Just imagine that. And I don't want you to like imagine it's good. I just want you to like project, right? Project what would happen if you had this for an hour. Notice that.
Mm-hmm.
Now project a full day of having this. And just notice what would happen, what that would be like. Now project a full week of feeling like this. Notice what would happen, what that would be like. Projecting out now to a month. And it's at this point that you may start to notice a tiny bit of resistance or a tiny bit of worry. Is anything coming up for you?
I mean, I think that maybe I was on the edge of this before, but I mean, if I'm really getting into this, and I can fully embrace this, that a potential problem would be like work-life balance. Like if I'm deriving so much pleasure, if this state is like euphoric, I would imagine I might not ever want to leave it.
Yeah. So what trait, sense, feeling, knowledge, wisdom can you add to this sense that would allow you to maintain that work-life balance?
Again, this one is tough because I feel like I'm already like it feels like I said, like a superhero, but yeah, maybe there is like I don't know, some of the words I'm thinking of are like temperance or moderation or wisdom. I know wisdom's a good one because it kind of has more than one application outside of moderating this state.
So can you think of a time when you were in that wise or higher state memory, when you had a lot of that wisdom?
Yeah, this one's tougher. I'm not coming up with an obvious one. I mean, it's not a quality that I think of. Like I don't say, oh, I feel like I'm wise.
Do you have a memory of someone else who maybe had that wisdom, a time that you interacted with them?
Yeah, that could work. Yeah.
Okay, so I want you to step into that memory, but rather than stepping into you, step into what they were thinking and feeling as they were interacting with you. And notice what it's like to be them from the inside and feel that wisdom. So you're seeing yourself. You're feeling that wisdom, and it's not magical or mystical. It's just another human having a quality. And allowing yourself now to notice how to add that wisdom to the hologram in front of you. The hologram that feels that clean slate curiosity, that feels that sense of focus, and that feels, what was the last one? The last quality we talked about?
Sharp and present.
Sharpness. That's right. Yeah. So adding now the wisdom to all that, noticing how it changes, how it grows, what shifts inside this hologram. And now I want you once again to step back in that hologram. feel how all those qualities feel together. Notice how your mind is moving, how your feelings are changing, how your posture shifts, and really step in, and we're going to integrate all that process now.
Would you mind doing a favor? Could you read them one more time?
Yeah. So you've got that sense of clean slate curiosity. You've got that sense of sharpness. You've got that sense of wisdom. And what's the last one? I don't have it written down here.
Present.
Yeah.
Present. Yeah.
So you had the present sharpness, you had the wisdom, you had the clean slate curiosity, and you had the focus. That was the last one.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess focus and present probably feel similar to you.
Mm-hmm.
So allow yourself now to feel that, to step into that, to breathe that, all of those things at once. Where are you feeling that in your body?
I think I feel like a warmth. I feel like larger, stronger.
Okay.
Like I almost feel like a swelling of all these qualities.
So sit with that. And in fact, let's not sit with it. Let's stand up now for a moment. One way that we can begin to integrate some of these feelings is through movement, posture, and breath. So I just want yourself, as you're feeling this, to not suppress any sort of movement, breath thing you're feeling. Allow yourself to feel these feelings, and then ask, what am I suppressing? And stop suppressing it. If you want to move around, you can. If you want to stand still, you can. Let that feeling integrate through movement, through breath. No need to suppress anything. And I want you to think of a time now in the past when you were acting through your old sense. Perhaps this sense that you were lazy or weak. Perhaps this sense that you didn't want to disappoint yourself. You didn't want to disappoint yourself, and so you didn't want to work. Are you having a memory when you acted through one of those senses or schemas?
Let me try to call one up.
Yeah.
It's funny, it was something I could get to really easily and quickly before, and now it's this is funny. When you were saying it, as soon as you said it, my inner voice is like, fuck that. No.
Yeah. That's perfect. And what we want to do now is get some new reference experiences so that you're not just feeling this, but you actually know how to express it in different circumstances. So once you have a memory of that old sense, let me know.
Okay.
Yep. So you can put it, like I was saying before, as almost a TV screen on the wall, watching that old Andrew acting in that old way. And just watch through it once and see what you notice. Okay, have you done that?
Yep.
Okay. Now, I want you to imagine what it would have been like for that Andrew to have this new sense, this clean slate curiosity, this present sharpness, this wisdom, and this focus. And run through it a few times. Notice how it would have been different until it feels resonant with what you're feeling right now. Until you're like, yes, that's what would have happened. That's how it would have been to have this new sense in that moment. And here's how it would have gone differently. So run through it as many times as you need until you've gotten to that point where you're like, yes, that's correct. And then let me know.
Yep.
And now I want you to imagine, now rather than having it up on the wall, I want you to step in to this new memory and feel how it would have been to have this feeling in that moment, and run through and really feel how it is to act through this sense in this memory. And let me know when you've done that.
Yep.
Great. Now, once again, stepping out, noticing the picture or frame or movie. And what we're going to do is we're going to take now this old memory that you had and this new reference experience of how it would have been to act in this new way. And I want you to connect them somehow. You can paperclip them together or put them back to back or somehow connect them so that you know, okay, this is how I was, and now here's how I could be in the future. And we're going to take this memory, and I want you, these two memories that are now connected, and I want you to put it away somewhere in your mind in a new space for this new feeling. It could be a file drawer or a memory stick or a giant wall of different memories. We're going to start a new database in your mind of all of the reference experiences for how to act through this clean slate curiosity, present sharpness, wisdom, and focus. Okay, so go ahead and take a moment now to slot it in to that new section in your mind. And let me know when you've created that and done that. And then we're going to sit down and we're going to add a whole bunch more of these reference experiences to that place. Okay, have you done that?
Yes.
Great. So I want you to think now and run through. And you're just going to go through and spend 5 minutes or so here, starting from when you were very young, when you were just born, right? And we're just going to go through the major periods of your life, maybe when you were at different schools, when you had different relationships, when you were in different parts of the country. And as you do, I just want you to notice any times when you had this old sense. Bring those up and notice how it would have been to act in this new way. When you do that, you can add them to this new space in your mind that you've just created. Notice, okay, now there's 2, now there's 3, now there's 4, now there's 5. I'm just going to run through your whole life like that. Okay, just noticing any times when you were acting in this old way, and what would it have been like in that instance to act in the new way, and then add that next to all these other instances. Okay, so just take 5 minutes or so to run through that, and let me know when you're done.
What's an appropriate amount of time to, what's the verb to describe this? What's the amount of time to imagine that switch?
As long as you need to make it happen. It might take longer for the first few, and then as you get sort of more of a sense of what these look like, it might be a little bit quicker as you move along.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So you just went through the whole thing?
I've compiled maybe a dozen.
That's great. So now check in. Does this sense feel more grounded? Does it feel sort of more solid in you now having this dozen reference experiences?
Yeah, it feels like a software update.
Yeah. Okay, so do we have time? We don't have that much time to do more integration stuff. But the number one thing you can do in the next 30 minutes to 3 hours during this reconsolidation window is acting through this new sense. So if you have time in the next little bit here to actually work on your PhD, I recommend you get in touch with these feelings and try to do that, even if it's just for 5 to 10 minutes, so that you have not only these imagined reference experiences, but also real life reference experiences that can get jammed in there during that reconsolidation window.
I scheduled this session quite strategically. I have office hours after this, so I have 2 hours of forced time, at my desk where I can practice this.
Great. Okay, perfect. So we're coming up on the 2-hour mark here. Yeah. So what do you think?
I was nervous and skeptical, I think, and fearful that like I wasn't going to have anything positive come out of it. But yeah, I think that even from the very beginning, I felt like I tapped into some stuff I hadn't tapped into before, and I think that was huge. I think that I consciously or unconsciously felt stuck, like I couldn't change these thought patterns and behaviors. That this is just the way it was going to be. That I had to figure out. I just had to make peace with this is how my personality is. This is how life is.
Yeah.
And I don't think I at all appreciated how plastic these things can be.
Yeah. That's I say it a lot when I do these first few sessions with people, is that part of what we're working on is the object level. Like, I'm having trouble working on my PhD, but just as important, if not more important, is noticing the mental movements that your mind can make. And it's possible that you have accidentally stumbled upon reconsolidation or questioning or all of these tools we went through before. But it's sort of like getting into a fight, you flail, and you somehow knock somebody out, versus knowing how to do a proper punch and a proper kick and a proper block. And a lot of what I'm trying to do here in these first few sessions with somebody is, I tell you what to do a lot of these first few sessions in order to show you the things that your mind is capable of, right? And so I'm glad to hear you say that, because that's sort of a big part of what I'm trying to get across here is like, oh, my brain can do that. I didn't know I could do that. So that feels really good. Yeah. Anything else? Any other thoughts before I give you a few more specific questions?
No, I mean, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm like excited to play around with it a little bit. Someone who learns like a new magic trick or something, and they like want to practice it over and over again and show it off. Or
interesting. Play around with the new sense, or play around with what?
Yeah, with the new sense, like engaging this, like I keep using this like superhero metaphor that, kind of stacking these qualities and embracing or trying to, employ these different disparate modes that I maybe haven't integrated all at once.
Yeah. Okay. So a few other questions here. So one of them is, what didn't work for you? Imagine that you're talking to somebody who has no stake in this. If you were talking to a friend or something that you weren't worried about hurting my feelings or anything like that, what wasn't work for you? What felt off or anything like that?
I think that it's funny when you teach, you're told to like embrace the silence, because people can't stand being silent for very long. Like someone will speak if you give them long enough to. And I think I felt myself like feeling bad about not voicing enough things, even though like you made it very clear like you don't have to voice things. Like I think at one point I was like, oh, I feel like I should say these things. And I tried to, like, I think there were times where I maybe should have spoken or like voiced all the thoughts in my head, and I think I wasn't comfortable with it.
Right.
And so I just kind of kept it internal.
Got it. And so you were maybe hoping for more prompts to voice things. Is that what I'm hearing?
No. I actually don't think it wasn't a matter of didn't work for me. I felt bad that I wasn't constantly speaking.
Got it. Okay. Anything else that felt off, didn't work for you, wasn't?
No, I mean, I think I trusted that I was in good hands, and I was like happy to, kind of fully buy in to the process.
Yeah, and I appreciated that. There's varying levels of that, and I sort of have to calibrate to how much somebody is resisting or skeptical of what's happening. And you were fairly open to it, and part of that might be that you've had some experience with stuff like CFAR, where you have some sense that, okay, there's stuff here to play around with.
I'll say that
Yeah.
one noticeable difference between the two of us is like you are very like you're much more comfortable discussing emotions and love for yourself, and like that's not something I've ever been great at. And definitely like the section where like you were, I think like asking me to express love, like conditional and unconditional love to these different voices, like that was something I was like, I'm definitely not going to say this because it is extremely uncomfortable for me.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. All right. So a few minor things here before we sign off. So one is that I do paid coaching. So if you're interested in that, there's a sliding scale on it. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to do more sessions, go deeper with these sorts of things, and get to the point where you can sort of do this process with yourself on your own. If you know anybody who might be interested in one of these free sessions, also feel free to send them my way. If you think, hey, this was valuable for me, maybe this will be valuable for somebody else, feel free to refer them to me as well. And then the final thing, I think it's really important to check back in with people in a week or so, especially for these recorded ones, because I think people are often skeptical of, has this stuck around? Has this actually worked? And I'm always curious about that as well, right? Because I don't expect usually things to go away, but occasionally it doesn't stick, or resistance creeps back in or whatever. So I'd love to check in with you in a week or so and do another recorded session, just a quick follow up of how is it for you? How does that feel for you?
Yeah. I think a week is tricky based on I think I told you
Oh
that
yeah,
I'm
that's
going
right.
on that trip. The trip.
Traveling.
I don't know if 2 weeks is. I don't know if 2 weeks is too long.
No, there's no too long. A lot. So the only problem with too long can be that like you sort of forget what it used to be like. That's the only issue I run into is like I will say these like, oh, you said this, and you're like, I used to think like that. What? but I'll send you the link here, and that I think that goes out however long you want. So just feel free to book in 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, man, thanks for doing this. I'm pretty excited to check back in, see how it is. And make sure once I sign off, that link will go away. So make sure you have it copied to Notepad or something, or you open up the link. Have a good one. I'll see you. Do you need to switch next week's weekly check-in because of your travel?
Yes. Okay. I'll be out of town. Yeah.
Okay. So do you just want to skip that one and we'll do the one after, or do you want to reschedule that one? What do you think?
Let me think on it for a minute because I've got a lot going on up here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Take your time.
Let's see here. I think I was trying to figure out how to juggle both the follow-up and a weekly meeting.
Yeah.
So maybe I want to give myself ample time to see evidence of integrating this stuff.
Yeah.
And so like, I'll be leaving here in a couple days and then come back. What about like, is there an optimal ordering for these? I think skipping the weekly because I think I want to see, how this goes.
Sounds good.
So let's maybe the follow-up. Let's see, I'm looking at the schedule on Woven right now. Follow-up. How do I go to next week? There we go. Okay. Friday. 20 minutes, 9 a.m.
Okay. And then
let's go.
Yeah. I mean, any time in my calendar that it works for you is good for that one. And then
9 to 9:30 on February 19th.
Sounds good. And so then the next weekly check-in will just be the 21st.
Sorry, the audio got cut out for a second. Yes, so you got cut off, but I'm assuming you said the weekly on the following Monday or the following Sunday?
The 21st? Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. I will see you then. And man, have fun on your trip. And, you can feel free to have the same sense when skiing. It doesn't have to only be when working on your PhD. You can use it in other contexts as well. Yeah.
Good point. Yeah, I hadn't considered that.
Yeah, that's normally, if we had had more time, we would have gone through and noticed how it can integrate in different areas of your life. We just didn't have time for it. But yeah, have a great day. Like I said, spend a little bit of time now practicing, and we'll talk soon.
All right. Thanks,
Yep.
man.
Bye.
Bye-bye.